In this video, I'll give you my top auction league strategy for 2024 leagues. I'm Jim Coventry of RotoWire. Now, look, every auction is different. Having a strategy is important. However, you got to pay close attention to what is being spent on players because it's critical. At times, you'll notice some auctions, very aggressive spending, others very conservative. You need to pay close note early in those auctions so that you can make the necessary adjustments. You can abandon your plan if needed. Don't feel like I've got this plan. I am sticking to it no matter what. But overall, in most auctions I'm in, this plan is able to be held to. Players typically will go in certain ranges, and this should work in 70 to 80% of circumstances. Auction strategy point number one, save money on quarterback. Yes, I know quarterbacks usually score the most points. However, the prices in auctions on quarterbacks usually have a drastic fall off after the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks are off the board. Then after quarterbacks 6, 7, another price drop, and they become very affordable. And if I hit on the right quarterback, the scoring that I get, it's going to keep me competitive with those higher end quarterbacks, maybe not to their full level, but close enough. But the dollar per point ratio is way more attractive. Now, don't forget, in most auction leagues, the waiver wire has quarterbacks available. If you choose a quarterback that didn't work out, you need to be aggressive with your free agent dollars. Now, if you save that money on quarterback, extra money for running backs and receivers, and remember, you won't want to fill your roster with $1 players if you have multiple starting spots, flex, multiple flexes. If you spend up a quarterback, you'll be having wasted players in your starting lineup. You want players with value. So now, as I said earlier, try to shop outside those 6, 7 quarterbacks to get your value. Top 6, they'll dry up. But you see, well, here's what you need to do. If you can nominate a quarterback that you're going after, do that before the desperation sets in and everybody realizes there are only a couple quarterbacks left. Again, quarterbacks I'm targeting, Dak Prescott and Kyler Murray. In regular drafted leagues, they're the quarterback 8 and 9. But that tells us usually in an auction, that's about the pricing. And you can get these players somewhere near 5% of your budget. That is something you totally can work with for quarterbacks that can give you high-end production. Now, if you completely miss out, things don't work out, you probably can get Jordan Love or Brock Purdy for 2 to 3% of your budget. They have a floor, not the greatest of ceilings as the other players, but you could live with that if you have to as well. Now, if you're in an auction league where people are purchasing 2 quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins, you should get for $1 or $2. Deshaun Watson, running floor. I know he's missed a lot of time, not great as a passer, but he does have that rushing ability as well. Auction strategy point number 2, the running backs. Preferred approach. I really don't want to spend up for Christian McCaffrey because McCaffrey goes way above the running back 2 and 3 usually in terms of auctions. Now, if he's the first player up and the crowd is very nervous and they're only going to spend out of a $200 budget, $50 and it stops, okay, McCaffrey's fine there, but he'll usually go up in that $60 range in the $200 cap budget. So that's a little bit much. And he's an aging back and he gets, I still expect him to be the number 1, but the more money you dump into a player, the less you can withstand an injury. So I'm going to take the price savings of Breece Hall or Bijan Robinson, and I could probably get one of them in enough of my budget where, again, I'm not paying that Christian McCaffrey money, but yet I'm paying for it. And it's going to be a hero running back approach where I'm going to do that. I am not paying up for any other running back. I've got my main running back. I'm going to try to piece together the rest of the backfield. Now I'll go to my way down the list running backs. Because again, I'm not paying up for number 2. So players like James Conner, Ramondre Stevenson, both potentially lead roles in their offenses when healthy, productive players. If they don't work out, you got Najee Harris in a timeshare, you got Raheem Mostert in a timeshare, but both are productive players. You want to get any of these running backs for 10% or less of your budget. You need to save money here. And don't push the issue. Don't overspend. You have a hero running back you're counting on, so you just need some production out of the other one. And then, again, real cheap at the end of drafts. You should get 2, maybe 3 of these running backs for $2 to $3. Chase Brown could be in a situation where he can move ahead of Zach Moss if he does really well, and Zach Moss tends to underperform as he did in Buffalo and late last season in Indy. Kendre Miller, again, Alvin Kamara, great numbers last year, but all the metrics were declining. Couldn't break tackles, couldn't get yards after contact. New coach, Clint Kubiak in. Kendre Miller hurt a bit last year, could get in there. Kimani Vidal of the Chargers. Gus Edwards regressed by a yard per carry last year. Touchdowns were nice, but not scoring those touchdowns in Los Angeles. J.K. Dobbins is always hurt. Even Tyrone Tracy in the PPR league, maybe he can push Singletary for receiving work. Audric Estime should be a dollar player with the Broncos. If Javonte Williams continues to struggle in the power rushing game, I know McLaughlin will be a change of pace guy, but Estime could be a very solid building block. But again, if I can't get Breece Hall or Bijan Robinson, one of those hero running backs, I'm going to instead get 2 to 3 running backs that'll make about 30% of my budget. Each of these running backs will be priced in your running back 2 or running back 3 tier, but I believe they have the potential, the first few, of hitting that running back 1 production. The 3, I think, can hit running back 1 production for lower cost. Joe Mixon, a compiler, but really no competition on the depth chart, should see the 300 touch average he's seen in the last few years now in Houston. Aaron Jones, now that he's gone from Green Bay, again, I know he was hurt last year, missed 6 games, parts of others, but he had only missed 4 games in the prior 4 seasons. So Aaron Jones now in Minnesota, they have no reason to preserve him. 29-year-old player on a 1-year contract. Running back 1 upside, James Conner. James Conner was having a career year last year. He's going to miss time, but you'll have players on your bench to sub in. Those players, you can get them, if you can get them cheap enough, grab 1 of them, grab 2 of them. If you can grab 2 of them, even better if the cost is right. All right. But you want 30% of your budget. That's about all you're looking to go with on, these running backs. If you could piece 3 together cheap, that's great. The other ones, maybe not running back 1 upside, Ramondre Stevenson, Najee Harris, Raheem Mostert. Again, those are 3 backs that'll have a solidified role. They'll get you a floor, but they definitely will build in if the other running backs were too expensive. And again, just like with the hero running back approach, now I still want a couple of those cheap darts. I'm only going to repeat 3, but I gave the rationale earlier. So you got Chase Brown, Kendre Miller, Kimani Vidal. Again, couple bucks, get them on your team. If they pop, you use them. If not, you can get to the waiver wire pretty quickly. Hey, if you enjoy videos like this, please consider hitting the like button and subscribe to the RotoWire Fantasy Football channel on YouTube. Also, check out all of our fantasy football content and rankings and get a free 2-day trial with no credit card needed. Just go to rotowire.com/Jim to see all of our content. Auction strategy point number 3, the wide receivers. I like to spend the most money of all the positions at receiver. Now, I do tend to shy away from one of those top 5 receivers. The prices are too inflated there. And again, this is about economics. I've got to preserve that budget. Got to get a number of players. Don't just want a few. I'm not going stars and scrubs. I'm going to go with some stars, but I don't want scrubs. I want some players who are at a higher baseline to fill out that roster. So again, that discount allows me to look for wide receivers, my anchor, my number 1, in the 20 to 23% of my budget. And based on where they're going in drafts, I know that A.J. Brown or Garrett Wilson have a chance to go in that 20 to 23% bucket. A.J. Brown, halfway through last season, was on his way to a career year. He's averaging well over 1,400 yards in his 2 years with Philly. Better coach in there right now. Should be a better situation. Garrett Wilson finally has a quarterback. That'd be a nice place to start. But now I get that wide receiver 1. Now I want myself a very strong wide receiver 2, but one with wide receiver 1 upside. And I'm hoping to get one for about 15% of the budget. Drake London, quarterback change, coach change, Arthur Smith gone. Excited for his opportunity. Chris Olave, the Clint Kubiak offense and play action. The number 1 receiver is heavily used in that. Derek Carr did get a 1,500-yard season out of Devontae Adams, so we know Carr can support a player if the system works out. DJ Moore, people are undervaluing him, but DJ Moore is a superstar. Then I want my next group. I want 1 receiver, about 10% of my budget range, and I have a number to pick from. These are all players on their team should lead their team in targets. Amari Cooper, George Pickens, Christian Kirk. Marquise Brown might lead his team in targets, but he has Patrick Mahomes. Chris Godwin, again, Mike Evans is there, but he should get PPR value more in the slot this year. Deontay Johnson should be heavily targeted this year. Those are players you can get cheap as your wide receiver 3. And then at the end, Get some 1 to 4% guys. Jackson Smith and Jigba, I love him to break out in Seattle this year, become the number 2 new offense, a little more high power, the passing attack. Jermaine Burton in the slot in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow. Michael Wilson now alongside Marvin Harrison with Kyler Murray. Michael Wilson is a good dollar player, maybe $2. Wan'Dale Robinson in the slot with the New York Giants. Malik Neighbors should draw a lot of attention. Robinson will be needed. Auction strategy point number 4, the tight ends. Last year's the first time since 2019 a tight end didn't give you a huge scoring advantage over the field. I project more of the same. We'll have a bunch of guys at the top, but spending up a tight end is now a luxury in that scenario. You were spending up in the past because you wanted the hammer over the field. You're not probably going to get that now. So we talked about quarterbacks. We save money there. Tight ends, we're saving money here as well. So we have more money for those running backs and receivers. So I'm willing to put 8% of my budget into a tight end, but I don't want to spend more. If I can get Mark Andrews at that 8% range, I have him as my tight end 2. Other people have him as the 5. I think he's a fine value there. Also, right around that 8% range, if you want to take a flyer on Kyle Pitts, new coach, new quarterback, like I said, with Drake London, it's possible to deploy him as an actual receiver, multifaceted usage. That would be great. If not, look, Jake Ferguson, you should get for less than an 8% budget without a problem. You could probably get him for 5%. Pat Fryermuth, definitely less than 5%. We know that Jonnu Smith had a career year with Arthur Smith. Kyle Pitts didn't, but he was used differently. So this is the way to go at tight end. Go cheap.